Zena was just 14 when her world shattered. It was a hot afternoon in Ibadan, Nigeria. She was sweeping the sitting room quietly when she heard shouting from the bedroom. Her heart raced. Mama Lami was arguing with her husband again, but this time, Zena heard something she was never meant to hear. "That girl is not even mine." Mama Lami screamed. Zena froze. The broom slipped from her hand. Her heart dropped. She wanted to believe she heard wrong. But the words repeated in her mind like a song she couldn't turn off. Not even mine. What did that mean? Tears filled her eyes, but she didn't cry out loud. Instead, she walked slowly to her small room at the back of the house and sat on the floor. Her whole life, she believed Mama Lami was her mother. Even though she was treated differently from her siblings, she still hoped one day she would be loved the same. But now, everything made sense. The way she was shouted at for small things, the way her plate was always the last, the way Mama Lami never hugged her. That one sentence felt worse than a slap. It broke something inside her. She looked at the tiny mirror on the wall and asked herself, who am I then? Whose child am I? From that day, Zena changed. She stopped hoping for love from Mama Lami. In her heart, a quiet storm began to grow. She didn't know it yet, but that pain would one day become power. Zena's life became harder after that day. It was like Mama Lami had stopped pretending. She now showed clearly who her real children were. Her son and daughter, Tund and Amaka, got all the love. Every week, Mama Lami bought them new clothes. She brought home meat pies and soft drinks for them, gave them money for snacks, and hugged them tightly when they did well in school. Zena watched from the corner, invisible. Her plate always came last, just small rice with no meat. Sometimes she didn't eat at all. If food finished early, Mama Lami would say, "You should be lucky we even feed you." Those words stayed with Zena, hurting more than hunger. Every morning, Zena woke up before anyone else to fetch water, sweep the compound, and wash clothes. She was late to school most times or missed it completely. Mama Lami often said, "Why should you go to school when there's work in this house?" But her own children were never stopped. They rested, laughed, played with their phones, while Zena scrubbed the floors and cleaned their shoes. On Christmas, when everyone got new clothes, Zena wore old, faded ones. Mama Lami said, "Only my real children deserve gifts." But Zena didn't fight. She didn't cry in front of them. She kept quiet. In her silence, she watched everything. She listened when they talked. When they slept, she read their old school books, lit a candle, and studied by herself. She had no friends, no one to talk to, but she had her dreams. Zena's mind was sharp. She learned how to type from Tun's old laptop when no one was home. She watched YouTube videos secretly when she could borrow someone's phone. Nobody saw what she was doing. They thought she was just the house help. Even neighbors began treating her like she didn't matter. But inside, Zena was building something. She told herself quietly, "One day, they'll see. One day, they'll know who I am." At school, when she managed to attend, her teachers noticed her. One of them, Miss Beasy, once said, "Zena, you're one of the brightest girls in this class." Zena smiled, but didn't say anything. She was used to being unnoticed. Used to walking home while her siblings rode in a car. But her heart was strong. Stronger than they knew. One evening, after a long day of cleaning, Zena sat outside looking at the stars. She whispered to herself, "They may not love me. But I will not live like this forever." That night, she didn't cry. She just closed her eyes and imagined a different life, one where she was free, happy, successful. That small dream became her secret light, something she held on to tightly. No matter how hard things got, Zena never let go of that light. And slowly, in the background, far from anyone's eyes, a girl they once called nothing was becoming something unforgettable. It was a rainy Saturday afternoon when Zena was asked to clean the old storage room at the back of the house. The room was dark, dusty, and filled with broken chairs, old clothes, and forgotten things. Zena coughed as she swept, but she didn't complain. As always, she just did what she was told. While moving an old wooden box, something fell out from a pile of clothes, a yellow, torn envelope. It had dirt on it, but the words Kano General Hospital were still clear. Her heart began to race. Carefully, she opened it and found a folded letter inside. The paper was old and soft, like it could tear at any second. With shaking hands, she read the words. Her eyes moved slowly over the sentences, and her whole body froze. The letter was about her. It said her real mother had died while giving birth to her. Her real name was listed. There was even a baby wristband with the name Zina written on it. At the bottom of the letter, it confirmed it, she had been adopted. Zina sat on the cold floor for a long time, staring at the letter. She couldn't speak. Her chest felt heavy. So it was true. She wasn't Mama Lami's child. All the hatred, all the harsh words, the beatings, the leftovers, it all made sense now. She was never loved because she never belonged. That night, Zena hid the letter under her mattress and cried more than she ever had in her life. Her pillow was soaked with tears. She didn't even have the strength to wipe them away. It felt like her heart had cracked open. She didn't know who her real father was. She didn't know if she had any family at all. She felt lost, like a mistake the world didn't want. But something strange happened the next morning. She woke up with red eyes and a quiet fire burning inside her. The pain didn't disappear, but it turned into something else. It turned into strength. Zena looked in the mirror and whispered to herself, "They didn't love me. But I will make them regret how they treated me." She said it again and again, like a promise. From that day, Zena moved differently. She spoke less, worked harder, studied more. Every "you're useless" from Mama Lami became fuel. Every slap became a step forward. She stopped waiting for love. She focused only on one thing, escaping that house and building a better life. No one saw the change. But it was there. In her eyes. In her silence. In her hunger to prove she was more than the forgotten girl in the back room. The letter from the hospital, though painful, gave Zena something she never had before, the truth. And with that truth, she made a new plan. Not just to survive. But to rise. To shine. To become someone so great that they would all remember her name. By the time Zena turned 18, something inside her had fully changed. She no longer cried quietly at night. She no longer wished for Mama Lami's love or hoped to be treated like family. That dream was gone. Now, she had a new mission, to build her own life, far away from the pain. Zena knew she couldn't wait for anyone to save her. She had to save herself. So, in secret, she began to plan. Whenever she got a few minutes alone, she used Tun's old laptop that barely worked. She would connect to the neighbor's Wi-Fi late at night when everyone was asleep. At first, she just read articles about successful people. Then, she discovered free online business classes. She took notes in an old school notebook, learning how to sell online, how to use social media for marketing, and how to manage money. Slowly, an idea started growing in her mind. With the little money she saved from secretly helping a neighbor with house chores, she bought second-hand clothes from the local market. She washed, ironed, and took neat pictures using a borrowed phone. Then she created a small Instagram page and named it Zena's Closet. At first, no one noticed. But Zena kept posting, kept learning, and slowly, orders began to come in. Mama Lami still mocked her every day. "You think selling old clothes will make you rich?" she would laugh. "Who do you think you are? But Zena didn't get angry. She just smiled, a calm, knowing smile. Because she knew something Mama Lamy didn't, she was planting seeds. Quietly. Patiently. And soon, those seeds would grow. She also began applying for scholarships in secret. Every day after chores, while her siblings watched TV or slept, Zena filled out forms, wrote essays, and sent applications to universities, both in Nigeria and abroad. She didn't know if anyone would reply, but she refused to stop trying. She had no one to help her. No one to guide her. But she believed in herself. She had learned that power wasn't about who shouted the loudest. It was about who kept moving, even when nobody clapped for them. Her small business started growing. One of her dresses got reposted by a popular fashion page. More people followed her. She began earning enough to buy herself a new pair of shoes, some textbooks, and even a small second-hand phone. These were tiny wins, but to Zena, they were huge victories. She no longer begged for love. She no longer waited to be noticed. Every time Mama Lamy looked at her with those cold eyes, Zena smiled quietly. Not from weakness, but from strength. She had learned how to carry pain without letting it break her. And deep in her heart, she whispered a promise, I will never be powerless again. What they thought was silence, was strategy. What they thought was failure, was just the beginning. It was a bright and beautiful evening in Abuja. The hall was shining with gold lights, cameras flashing, and guests in elegant clothes walking the red carpet. It was one of the biggest award shows of the year, celebrating young business leaders in Nigeria. Mama Lamy had received a special invitation along with her 2 children, Tund and Amaka. She didn't know who invited them, but the invitation looked official, and the hotel was 5-star. She was excited and dressed in her best lace gown, smiling proudly. Her children walked beside her, jobless but still acting important. They entered the hall, not knowing the surprise waiting for them. As they sat down, the event host welcomed the audience and began to introduce the keynote speaker of the night. Please welcome a young woman who built a tech company from scratch. A woman who turned pain into power. One of Nigeria's youngest millionaires, CEO of Zena Tech, Miss Zina. The room exploded with applause. People stood up. Cameras turned. And then, from the back of the stage, walked a tall, confident young woman in a black suit, her head held high. It was Zena. The same girl Mama Lamy once called a burden. The same girl who used to scrub floors and eat leftovers. Mama Lamy's eyes widened. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. That can't be her, she whispered. But it was. Zena walked to the stage with grace, her smile calm and powerful. Tund and Amaka stared in shock. They couldn't believe it. The sister they used to laugh at was now the star of the night. They had no jobs, no degrees, no future plans. Yet here was Zena, being celebrated by the whole country. The camera zoomed in on Mama Lamy's face, now filled with shame and disbelief. Zena took the microphone. The crowd fell silent. Her voice was soft but clear. Many years ago, I was told I didn't belong. I was told I wasn't good enough. That I wasn't real family. The room listened closely. Zena looked around and paused. Then she smiled. But today, I stand here not because I was loved, but because I chose to rise. People stood up clapping again. Mama Lamy looked down at her hands, feeling small. This was not the Zena she remembered, this was a woman with power, purpose, and pride. The daughter she rejected had become a name the whole country respected. As Zena walked off the stage, guests rushed to shake her hand, take photos, and ask questions. Mama Lamy sat frozen, her heart heavy with regret. She had lost the one child who could have lifted the whole family. And now, the whole world knew it. Zena had come full circle, not for revenge, but for victory. And this time, it was her name on the banner, her face on the screen, and her story that moved millions. The hall was silent as Zena stood on stage, holding the microphone with grace. Her eyes moved slowly across the crowd. Cameras were flashing, lights shining bright, and all attention was on her. She looked calm on the outside, but inside her heart was full, not of pain anymore, but power. She took a deep breath, then began to speak, not from paper, but straight from her heart. She started by thanking the organizers of the award show and the people who supported her business journey. Then, she paused and looked out into the crowd. Tonight, she said, I want to thank someone very special, someone who gave me food when I had none, who gave me kind words when I was invisible. The audience leaned in, listening closely. She's not rich. She's not famous. But to me, she was everything. Mama Ifioma, my neighbor, thank you for seeing me when no one else did. Thank you for giving me bread when I was starving. Thank you for believing in a girl that no one else believed in. The camera turned to an older woman sitting in the middle row, tears in her eyes. The audience clapped loudly, some even stood. Zena smiled gently, her voice a little shaky with emotion. But she wasn't done. She turned slowly to the side of the room, where Mama Lami sat, stiff and pale. The same woman who once refused her love. The woman who made her feel like a stranger in her own home. And now, Zena said, I want to thank one more person, the woman who reminded me every single day that I didn't belong. The room fell quiet again. All eyes were now on Mama Lami. Thank you, Zena continued. Because you, with your harsh words, your cold stares, your silence, you built this version of me. The strong one. The fearless one. You thought you were breaking me, but you were shaping me. Gasps filled the room. Some people clapped, others looked shocked. Mama Lami lowered her head, her face burning with shame. Her own children sat beside her in silence, unable to look up. Zena's voice was calm, but full of meaning. She wasn't angry, not anymore. She had made peace with her past. But she wanted the world to know her truth. Zena finished her speech with a smile and walked off the stage with her head high. Reporters ran after her, people applauded, and Mama Ifioma came up to hug her tightly. It was a moment no one would forget. Not because it was about revenge. But because it was about power, healing, and truth. That night, Zena's speech went viral. Her words touched hearts all over the country. Girls who felt unloved saw themselves in her story. And Mama Lami? She sat alone, surrounded by success but feeling only loss, because the girl she once called a burden had become a blessing the whole world admired. After the award night, everything changed. Zena's name was everywhere, on the news, on blogs, and all over social media. People praised her strength, her story, and the way she spoke with so much calm and power. Young girls started messaging her, saying she gave them hope. Many called her a role model. But while the world celebrated her, Mama Lami sat alone in her house, staring at her phone, reading every headline with a heavy heart. She tried to call Zena. Sent messages. Even asked people for her office address. She wanted to say sorry. She wanted to fix things. But it was too late. Zena had already forgiven her in her heart, but she didn't forget the years of pain. So when Mama Lami finally reached her, Zena didn't shout or cry. She simply looked her in the eyes and said, "You called me a burden. Now I carry my own world." There were no more chances. No going back. Zena had set boundaries, not out of hate, but out of self-respect. She had built her life from nothing, and now she was protecting her peace. Her silence spoke louder than any words. Her story kept spreading. Girls from different places began sharing their own pain. And in every corner of the internet, Zena became a symbol, not of revenge, but of rising. She proved that even if no one claps for you, you can still win. She was the proof that some daughters don't break, they bloom.